Hello students, let us consider Unit 3 in NEET Biology named as Cell Structure and Function. These are the images of the cells that are given in class 9, whereas these are the images that are mentioned in class 11. Let us consider their functions. All these examples that are given in class 9 are related to the human body. All these are animal cells because humans are animals. Let us start with smooth muscle cell. Its major function is contraction. As these are involuntary muscles, they are involved in contraction and relaxation. Contraction and relaxation in humans is possible with the help of smooth muscle cells. Next we have blood cells. Blood cells, they are helpful in carrying the oxygen in the human body. They are helpful in carry of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the body in the form of oxyhemoglobin, as they possess hemoglobin pigment. Blood cells are involved in oxygen transport in the. Another example mentioned is nerve cell. Nerve cell is involved in receiving the messages and transmitting the messages. It receives the messages from different parts of the body and transfer that message to the brain. This is the major function of nerve cell, that is, transmit messages throughout the body. The next example considered is ovum. Ovum is an egg cell. Ovum is an egg cell, a female reproductive cell present in the humans. It carries the chromosome set that is transmitted from female parent to the offspring. It acts as the female gamete. Next, let us consider sperm. Sperm is male reproductive cell. This male reproductive cell carries the chromosomes that are contributed by the male parent. It fertilizes the egg cell and results in formation of a fertilized zygote. The other example is bone cell. Bone cell is useful to maintain bones. This term maintenance includes growth of the bone, repair of the bone, and healing and remodeling of the bone. These functions are carried out by bone cells. Remodeling of the bone, these functions are carried out by bone cells. The last example here is fat cell, which is also known as adipose cell or adipocyte. Adipose cells or adipocytes or fat cells. They are used or polymerized to form, they together form adipose tissue. Adipocytes or adipose cells, they are used in energy storage and metabolism. Energy storage and metabolism is the function mediated by adipose cells. These are the examples that are considered in class 9. Let us consider class 11 cells. Here, these examples are used to explain about shape of the cells. Red blood cells appears round and biconcave. WBCs amoeboid shape. Columnar epithelial cells long and narrow. Nerve cells branched and long. And these 4 examples are animal cells. Whereas a tracheoid that is elongated, mesophyll cell that is round and oval. These 2 are plant cells. Starting with RBCs. Round surface biconcave structure. This shape, it helps in oxygen exchange in the blood capillaries of the tissues and organs by the red blood cells. Biconcave indicates it has a large surface area compared to width. Large surface area over volume. Due to this, they can carry large amount of oxygen. Due to the biconcave structure, they can pass through the circulatory system smoothly and transfer the oxygen. That is, they can exchange the gases easily in the capillaries that are present in the tissues. As they lack nucleus, the hemoglobin Hb present in the RBCs bind with oxygen, helps in transport of large amount of oxygen in the form of oxyhemoglobin towards the tissues. Because of this narrow shape, biconcave shape, through the narrowest or narrow blood vessels, capillaries, they can pass easily. Biconcave structure of RBC, it helps in constant rate of oxygen exchange, oxygen exchange over large surface area. Now let's consider the next example here. WBCs, white blood cells, amoeboid shape. This WBCs, white blood cells, WBCs, amoeboid shape, these are known as leukocytes. This amoeboid shape structure helps them to pass through the blood capillaries easily. That is, they squeeze through the blood capillaries. And amoeboid shape, we find presence of pseudopodia. With the help of this pseudopodia, WBCs are able to engulf the pathogens and destroy the pathogens. Hence, due to this amoeboid shape, WBCs can reach the site of infection easily. They can squeeze through the blood capillaries, reach the site of infection, and destroy the pathogen. These WBCs, leukocytes, they are capable of generation, transport, and spread of antibodies. Antibodies that are useful to control the pathogens. They are involved in phagocytosis. WBCs with amoeboid shape, they are involved in the WBCs that possess pseudopodia, that is amoeboid shape. They are involved in phagocytosis. That is, they phagocytose the pathogens. These leukocytes, they live for 10 to 13 days as they lack nucleus. And they can squeeze through the blood capillaries and destroy the pathogen present at the site of infection. Now let's move to the next example here. The next example here is columnar epithelial cells, which appears long and narrow in shape. Let us consider this columnar epithelial cells. Columnar epithelial cells are animal cells. So the name itself indicates these columnar epithelial cells are column in appearance, which indicates they are long and narrow. That is tall and skinny. They exist as single layer, tall and skinny compared to width, and they exist as single layer. Their major function is secretion. Apart from secretion, they are involved in excretion. Secretion, excretion, and absorption. Columnar epithelial cells, they appear long and narrow. They are involved in secretion, excretion, and absorption. Let's move to the next example here. As we have come across the animal cell, which is column in shape and epithelial cell, then next example we have is nerve cell, which is branched. Here we see the branches, and the cell is also long. Let us consider this nerve cell. Nerve cell, which is also known as neuron. Neuron, in the image it appears long and branched, that is elongated and branched. Function of a nerve cell or neuron is it transmits electrical impulses throughout the body. For transmission of electrical impulses throughout the body, it requires unbroken path. Unbroken path is required for transmission of electrical impulses or nerve impulses or signals from different parts of the body towards the brain. An unbroken path is required. Hence, neurons appears long and branched in order to carry out this function. These neurons, they are involved in transmission of messages. That is, they transmit the messages and they release neurotransmitters. They release the neurotransmitters. Their major function is they receive the message from different parts of the body, transmit that to the brain, and brain reverts or sends the signals to different organs or parts of the body via the nerve cells in order to carry out their function. So in order to carry out this transmission of unbroken path, so in order to transmit this electrical impulses in unbroken path, neurons are elongated and branched. With the help of this shape, they are able to transmit the messages from different parts of the body towards. Now let us consider the next example given in the image. Till now we have seen red blood cells, WBCs, white blood cells, columnar epithelial cells and nerve cells. All these are animal cells. We have plant cells, examples also, a tracheoid and mesophyll cells. Let us consider a tracheoid which appears to be elongated. The next example here given is tracheoid. It is a plant cell. It is a xylem, a dead cell. As in animals, we have circulatory system. In plants, we have xylem and phloem as circulatory systems. The shape of the cell is elongated. At the same time, ends are tapered. And this is a dead cell. So tapered ends, dead cell. Its major function is, it is involved in support to the plant body and also upward movement of water, that is conduction of water against the surface gravity. Water conduction such that it is able to transport water and also dissolved minerals. This is the major function of tracheoid, that too elongated tracheoid. Its elongated shape helps to provide support to the plant and conduction of water. This spindle-shaped structure of tracheoid indicates it possesses blunt or chisel-shaped tapering ends. At the same time, protoplast is absent in it. It is thick-walled. At the same time, walls consist of lignin, hence these are lignified walls. Lignified walls. They are capable of holding water against the surface gravity, and this spindle-shaped structure helps in high surface area to volume ratio. Hence, they are able to transport water throughout the plant body. Now, based on its shape, it is involved in support to the plant body and water conduction in the plant body. Let's consider the next example here. Mesophyll cells, which appear round, oval shape. At the same time, these are green in color, which indicates presence of chlorophyll pigments. Now let us consider this example. Mesophyll cells. These are mesophyll cells that are given in the image. They appear to be round and oval. That is, these are irregular. So these cells, they form part of tissue parenchyma that is present beneath the leaf. That is ground tissue. This ground tissue system present in the leaves, it is involved in photosynthesis because they possess chlorophyll pigments. Hence, they appear green in color. Apart from this, they are irregular in shape, round and oval, regular shape. This irregular shape structures helps in regulation of gaseous exchange between the plant and environment. In between the plant and the environment, exchange of gases, that is oxygen and carbon dioxide, occurs with the help of these mesophyll cells, which exist as two types. One is palisade parenchyma. The other one is spongy parenchyma. And in the example, we have spongy parenchyma only. In the lower surface of the leaf, we have this spongy parenchyma, which is involved in photosynthesis and regulation of gaseous exchange. Even in class 9 also, we come across a lesson related to the cell. Let us see what we have learned there and compare it with this. In class 9, we find cell is the fundamental unit of life. That is, fundamental unit or basic unit of life is cell. Here itself, in class 9, it is clear the basic unit of life is cell. All the living organisms, they are made up of cells. When we said all the living organisms, they are made up of cells, let us see what the cell is made up of. Cell is made up of cell organelles. So this indicates living organisms, they are made up of cells, and the cell is made up of cell organelles. In that case, first let us learn about this term cell. Robert Hooke, who observed honeycomb-shaped structures in the cork and used the term cell for these honeycomb-shaped structures. Now, let us observe the structures that are present in the cell structures. Starting from outside, we observe the presence of plasma membrane, which is also known as cell membrane. Plasma membrane or cell membrane is made up of biomolecules, lipids, and proteins. These lipids and proteins help the plasma membrane to maintain the shape and structure of the cell. Even they allow the plasma membrane to remain semi-permeable. It allows the plasma membrane to remain semi-permeable. Outside the plasma membrane, we find the presence of cell wall in plants, in fungi, and bacteria. In these three cells, that is living organisms, cell wall is present. But in animal cells, cell wall is absent. In plants, it is made up of cellulose. In fungi, it is made up of cellulose and chitin. In bacteria, cell wall is made up of peptidoglycan. Cell wall protects the cell and it gives shape to the cell. Now let us consider the next cell organelle, that is nucleus. We are considering cell because 4 to 5 questions have come from this unit in NEET exam 2023. Now let's move to the nucleus that is present in eukaryotes like plants, animals, fungi. And it is surrounded by nuclear membrane in all these. That is, nuclear membrane along with nucleoplasm is present in them. Nuclear membrane separates nucleoplasm from the cytoplasm in these. But special nuclear membrane is absent in prokaryotes. It is present in the form of nucleide in prokaryotes. And here the nucleus carries or it stores the genetic material required for the survival of the living organism. Because genetic material possesses information that is required for the survival of the living organism. Now let's move to the next component in the cell. We are considering this because here we have 4 questions in NEET exam from this unit. Then we have cytoplasm in which cell organelles are present. As we said, fundamental unit of the living organism is cell, and this cell is made up of cell organ. This cytoplasm is a fluid content that is present inside the cell, which is surrounded by plasma membrane. Each cell organelle performs special functions that helps in survival of the cell. Let us consider few of the cell organelles. As we are considering cell cytoplasm, let us consider an eukaryotic cell with a diagrammatical representation. The fluid content that is present inside the cell is cytoplasm, which is enclosed by a plasma membrane. Plasma membrane protects the cell components and cytoplasm. It acts as a barrier. Next we have Golgi vesicles or Golgi apparatus that is useful for storage, modification and packaging of manufactured substances in the cell. Apart from this, we have mitochondria that acts as powerhouse of the cell. The other cell organelle is endoplasmic reticulum, abbreviated as ER, which is involved in protein synthesis and also lipid synthesis. Rough endoplasmic reticulum is involved in protein synthesis. Smooth endoplasmic reticulum is involved in lipid synthesis. This is nucleus that is present in the cell, which is bound by nuclear membrane, a double layer membrane. Within the nucleus, we find the presence of chromatin material. Later on, they condense to form chromosomes. These are chromatin material. And this circular structure is known as nucleolus, involved in synthesis of ribosomes. These large structures are vacuoles, useful for storage. These minute structures that are present in the cytoplasm acts as a skeletal support system, and some of them act as ribosomes. Let us consider the size of the typical eukaryotic cell, which measures around 10 to 20 micron meters. Let's move to the colored image related to the eukaryotic cell. Starting with, as we said, cytoplasm is present inside the cell. This is the fluid content present inside the cell. And in this image, we find various cell organelles present in the cytoplasm, mitochondria, and the cytoplasm is enclosed by plasma membrane, microtubules that provide skeletal support to the cell, centrosomes involved in cell division, microfilament involved in support to the cell, lysosomes which act as suicidal bags for the cell, smooth endoplasmic reticulum useful for lipid synthesis, secretory vesicle release the extracellular proteins from the cell, peroxisomes involved in photorespiration, vacuoles to store and also to store wastage. Vesicles and Golgi apparatus are involved in storage, modification and packaging of the substances present inside the cell, manufactured in the cell. Chromatin material, later on it acts as chromosome on condensation that carries the nucleic acid. Nucleolus useful for synthesis of ribosomes. Nucleus is the central part of the cell in which the genetic information is present. Rough endoplasmic reticulum useful for protein synthesis. Ribosomes used in protein synthesis. Intermediate filaments useful to maintain the skeletal structure of the cell. These are few cell organelles that are present in the cell. Let us consider some of them as mentioned in class 9. Let's consider the cell organelles, some of them. One is endoplasmic reticulum, abbreviated as ER, which acts as a passageway in the cell cytoplasm and performs two major functions. One is intracellular transport, intracellular transport of proteins. And also the other function is manufacturing surface. It acts as a manufacturing unit and transports the proteins that are modified towards the surface of the cell. Another cell organelle let us consider Golgi apparatus. Golgi apparatus appears like stacks of membranous vesicles within the cell cytoplasm. Membranous vesicles these are, and they perform three major functions. The major function of Golgi apparatus is storage, modification and package of the components synthesized within the cell, that are manufactured within the cell. Those are stored, modified and packed by the Golgi apparatus. Now let's consider the component. Now let us consider the cell organelle that is specific for plant cells and it is absent in animal cells. These are large membrane organelles, and these large membranous organelles are known as plastids. Plastids are of two types. That is, plastids are of two types. First one is chromoplast and the other one is leucoplast. Chromoplast and leucoplast. When chlorophyll pigment is present in them, chromoplasts are known as chloroplasts. Chloroplasts are the cell organelles that are involved in photosynthesis. They help the plant cells to synthesize their own food. Now moving to the leucoplasts. Leucoplasts, they lack chlorophyll, but these are involved in storage of food. In the plant cells, we find large central vacuole. This large central vacuole is useful to maintain turgidity in the plant cell and also to store important substances in the plant cells. Apart from this, the waste in the plant cell is also stored in the vacuole. Now moving to the cells, survival in the nature. The cells that are present in the organisms, they divide and divide, which helps in growth of the organism. That is, whether it is an animal or plant, growth depends on cell division. These cells, newly formed cells, they replace the dead cells. Even the cells reproduce new cells, or the information is passed on to the next generation with the help of formation of gametes. Gametes fuse together and helps in reproduction of next generation. Now considering the prokaryotic cells, as we have come across in the cell wall, prokaryotes, they lack the cell organelles, they lack the membrane bound nucleus, only nucleoid is present in them. This is not surrounded by the nuclear membrane. The nucleoid consists of chromosome that is made up of nucleic acid, that is DNA. Nucleic acid is DNA. Even in prokaryotes, we find very small are minute structures, that is ribosomes. These are very small structures, that is 70S ribosomes, involved in protein synthesis, are present in prokaryotes. In eukaryotes, separate cell organelles are used to perform functions, but in prokaryotes, cell organelles are absent. Hence, the functions of cell organelles are carried out by cell membrane in prokaryotes. Let us consider the remaining topic in next video.